Bruce Lee's surviving brother has questions about what really happened. The mysterious death of a true action hero. Who or what killed the one, the only?
Bruce Lee's sudden death at just 32 years old shocked the world. But now Chuck Norris has finally spoken out, revealing a truth no one expected. For decades, Norris stayed silent, refusing to fuel the speculation around his passing. But now he is exposing shocking details that could change everything we thought we knew. Was Bruce Lee's death really just a tragic accident? Or is there a hidden truth that has been kept from the world? Tune in as we uncover the dark revelation that will ruin Hollywood forever. The training that pushed Bruce Lee to the edge. Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris weren't just two famous fighters, they were forces of nature. When they met at a karate tournament in the late 1960s, their connection was instant. Chuck had just dominated the competition, winning yet another title, while Bruce had been dazzling the crowd with his lightning-fast moves. Afterward, they struck up a conversation, bonding over their love of martial arts and their obsession with perfecting every single strike. Before long, Bruce was inviting Chuck over to train in his backyard, pushing each other beyond their limits. Before we go any further, it's clear that what happened between Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris was far more intense than anyone ever knew, and this won't be the only thing that will shock you. Bruce was always hungry for new techniques, and Chuck was the one who convinced him to embrace high kicks. At first, Bruce wasn't a fan. He believed kicks should stay low and fast. But Chuck, with his powerful roundhouse, showed him just how effective those high kicks could be. Within half a year, Bruce's kicks were deadly weapons, so sharp and fast that even Chuck was impressed. In return, Bruce introduced Chuck to his Jeet Kune Do philosophy, a style built on speed, adaptability, and raw instinct. Chuck was amazed by Bruce's ability to turn any attack against an opponent, and he soaked up every lesson like a sponge. Then came 1972. Bruce called Chuck with an idea that would change martial arts cinema forever. He was working on a movie, The Way of the Dragon, and wanted Chuck to be his final opponent in an epic showdown. Without hesitation, Chuck was on board, and soon they were in Rome, filming one of the most legendary fight scenes in history. They held nothing back. Every punch, every kick was real. Chuck brought his brute strength while Bruce was a blur of speed and precision. The result? A fight that still leaves fans speechless to this day. But then, tragedy. Bruce Lee's life was cut short in 1973, shocking the world. Over the years, Chuck has spoken about his friend's final days, revealing what he believes really happened. He had seen firsthand how Bruce pushed himself beyond human limits. The man was relentless, training harder than anyone, refusing to let his body rest. That kind of obsession doesn't come without consequences. Back in 1968, Bruce had already suffered a brutal injury. He destroyed a spinal disc while lifting weights, an injury so severe doctors told him he might never walk properly again. But Bruce being Bruce, he refused to slow down. He threw himself into an even harsher training routine, ignoring medical advice. Chuck saw it all. He knew Bruce was addicted to intensity, always looking for an edge, always experimenting with wild diets and extreme supplements. And then there was his metabolism. Bruce burned through calories like a machine, constantly trying to bulk up with protein shakes, vitamins, and energy-boosting herbs. He was also obsessed with hydration, reportedly drinking over 10 liters of water daily. Chuck believes all of these things, overtraining, heavy supplementation, extreme water intake, set Bruce up for disaster. That brings us to the night of his death. Bruce was in Hong Kong preparing for Game of Death. He was with Betty Ting Pei, an actress and close companion. That evening, he complained of a severe headache, so Betty gave him a painkiller. What neither of them realized was that the pill contained aspirin, a problem because Bruce was allergic to it. This, combined with his exhausted body, excessive hydration, and overloaded system, caused his brain to swell dangerously. Medical term is cerebral edema, a condition where the brain swells, cutting off oxygen and blood flow. It can be caused by many things: trauma, toxic substances, even severe allergic reactions. In Bruce's case, Chuck believes it was a deadly combination of everything he had put his body through. Bruce lay down for a nap and never woke up. His brain simply shut down. Bruce Lee's death has never stopped being a topic of debate. Some believe it was nothing more than a medical tragedy, while others are convinced there's a much darker reason behind it. People have suggested that someone poisoned him, that he had enemies in the Hong Kong underworld who wanted him gone. There are even those who say his death was part of an old family curse, the same one that took his son Brandon many years later. And then there's the most chilling idea of all, that Bruce discovered something dangerous, something that certain powerful people didn't want the world to know. Theories have only grown over time, weaving together whispers of crime syndicates, ancient traditions, and powerful organizations. Some claim Bruce was pressured by confidential groups within the Hong Kong film industry and that he made the wrong people angry by refusing to play by their rules. Others insist that he had become a target for reasons far beyond martial arts and movies, that he was caught up in something much larger than anyone realized. Was he silenced before he could reveal something shocking? Did he step too close to a hidden truth that certain people couldn't allow to come to light? The questions have never gone away, and the more time passes, the harder it is to separate fact from speculation. Even those who knew Bruce personally are divided. Chuck Norris, one of his closest friends, has always insisted that Bruce was simply a man who pushed himself beyond human limits. He trained harder than anyone, demanded more from his body than it could handle, and in the end, he paid the price. But not everyone is willing to accept that explanation. Why would a man in peak physical condition suddenly collapse? Why did his official cause of death leave so many gaps? And why do some claim that certain details about his final hours don't add up? People have searched for answers for decades, but the truth remains frustratingly out of reach. Some believe there were warning signs long before that day, strange events, unexplained accidents, even moments when Bruce himself seemed unsettled. There were rumors that he had confided in close friends, saying he felt he was being watched or followed. Others say he was working on something hidden, a project that never saw the light of day. Was his death truly just a tragic accident, or was he silenced before he could finish what he started? Even those closest to Bruce couldn't agree on what really happened, but some believe the warning signs had been there all along.
He was working with this actress named Betty Ting Pei, who was also, his mistress on the side. Bruce gets a wicked headache, so Betty gives him one of her prescription painkillers, which, unknown to Bruce, contains aspirin. Bruce was allergic to aspirin, and the combo of the meds, supplements, and stupid amount of water he drank created a crazy reaction in his body. Chuck's theory is that it made Bruce's brain swell up massively, cutting off blood and oxygen flow. Cerebral edema. For those playing along at home, cerebral edema is basically when the blood vessels of the brain swells abnormally. The swelling crushes your brain cells and can quickly become life-threatening without treatment. Lots of nasty things could cause it, like head injuries, overdoses, you name it. According to Chuck, Bruce just lay down for a nap on Betty's bed after taking that pill and never woke up again. The edema did him in right there. It's a chilling theory from someone so close to Bruce. Now, not everyone buys what Chuck's selling on this one. There have been all sorts of other theories floated about Bruce's demise. Poisoning by the Hong Kong mob, a centuries-old family curse. You get the idea. According to this theory, Bruce Lee wasn't by any freak accident or medical condition. Nope. He was straight up offed by the triads, the shady Chinese criminal syndicate that was thick as thieves in Hong Kong back in the day. Now, why would the triads want Bruce Lee deceased, you ask? Well, there are a few possible reasons these shady gangsters may have had it out for the little dragon. For one, Bruce was making major waves in how he portrayed Chinese martial arts on the big screen. He didn't follow any of the traditional rules or principles. Bruce pretty much said screw that to convention and started doing his own thing with his innovative Jeet Kune Do style. This ruffled some feathers, especially amongst the old-school Sifu masters in Hong Kong who were supposedly connected to the triads. They saw Bruce's New Age approach as a slap in the face to their ancient customs and arts. No respect for the OGs at all. There are also whispers that the triads wanted a cut of Bruce's rapidly growing millions from his blockbuster movies. When he refused to pay their extortionate fees, the criminal crew decided he was more useful to them. Another angle is that Bruce had gotten mixed up with some bad guys' ladies. The man was a stud, no doubt about it, and rumor has it he was knocking boots with a triad-affiliated actress named Betty Ting Pei. Maybe some men got a little jealous of Bruce's game and wanted payback. So how did the triads potentially cap Bruce? The prevailing theory is they used this crazy martial arts technique called the dim mak, or death touch. It's striking your opponent's vital pressure points in a certain way to inflict internal damage or just shut their body down entirely. The triads could have hired or pressured one of Bruce's former pupils or rivals who had mastered dim mak to utilize the death touch on him. Maybe they poisoned or drugged him up first to make him an easier target. There's some circumstantial evidence that adds a bit of weight to this theory too. Bruce had received numerous death threats in the lead-up to his demise, possibly from the triads. He was also a bit banged up with weird bruises and needle marks on his body when he died, calling card of the dim mak assassins. Plus, Bruce's inner circle suffered a spree of other suspicious deaths and disappearances after he passed away. Almost like the triads were tying up some loose ends from anyone who knew too much about their involvement in whacking Bruce Lee. Whether you buy into this theory or not, it's certainly one of the more dramatic and sensational explanations for Bruce's premature demise at just 32 years old. You've heard of the Kennedy curse, right? Well, the Lee family allegedly had their own eerie, supernatural curse that seemed to plague them for generations. Talk about a full-on curse that caused male members to die way too young, often in violent or bizarre circumstances. The tales of the Lee family curse go all the way back to feudal China, when the Lees had a couple of infamous ancestors, military generals who clearly ruffled some feathers. The most popular origin story claims the curse stems from a vengeful sorcerer casting a wicked hex on a general named Li Yuan during the Tang dynasty. This general Li Yuan was an uncompromising hardass who turned on the rebels to protect the emperor's rule. But in doing so, he made an enemy of a powerful black magic practitioner allied with the rebel forces. On his deathbed, the sorcerer vowed that Li Yuan's bloodline would forever be cursed and that no man would live past 33 years old. Freaky, right? Well, it gets weirder. Some say the curse actually traces back even further to General Li's son in the Song dynasty era. This Li betrayed his emperor and sided with the invading Mongolians instead. So, as revenge, the emperor's royal wizard damned Li's son's descendants to die by fire or metal. Whether you buy into either of those myths or not, there's no denying the long trail of untimely Li family tragedies. Bruce's parents were absolutely convinced the curse was legit after losing their firstborn son at a very young age under mysterious circumstances. To protect Bruce, whom they nicknamed Little Phoenix, they made him wear girls' clothes and pierced his ears at birth. The idea was to disguise him as a female to confuse any evil spirits hunting Li males. They were shaken over this supposed curse. Even Bruce's birth name, Jun Fan, meaning return again, had to be avoided. His parents were terrified that uttering those words would basically invite the curse to take their son away for good this time around. As Bruce grew up, his parents remained on edge, consulting fortune tellers about his fate. The mystics predicted Bruce would achieve phenomenal greatness and glory, but also face a short, harrowing life full of peril. Clearly, the curse loomed large over everything. You can imagine how convincing it seemed when Bruce actually did, tragically, pass away at the age of 32, just 1 year shy of the cursed threshold, age of 33. The fact that he died with severe swelling of the brain didn't help matters, mirroring how his grandfather had also perished from brain edema. The curse theory gained even more traction after Bruce's son Brandon was also killed in an on-set accident at age 28 while filming The Crow. Whether you're a believer in the supernatural or not, the number of strange, tragic coincidences surrounding the Lee men is pretty mind-boggling. It's understandable why some would attribute it all to an ancient family curse. Take the circumstances of Bruce's demise on July 20th, 1973, for instance. He died on the hottest day of the year when the temperature scorched at a sweltering 93 degrees Fahrenheit. There's more, he passed away in the year and exact hour of the dragon, which happened to be Bruce's zodiac sign. A little on the nose, don't you think? Bruce's wife, Linda, was utterly convinced her husband had an unexplainable premonition about his impending doom, too. She claimed he'd had a haunting dream just days before where he had envisioned his end. Supposedly, Bruce disclosed this disturbing vision to Linda with a somber certainty. Then you've got the whole demonic presence angle that fueled the cursed suspicions. Bruce had spoken and written about feeling tormented by some sort of malevolent entity or spirit haunting him. He even appeared to depict these supernatural struggles through his films like The Way of the Dragon and The Unfinished Game of Death. For example, the iconic mirror scene from The Way of the Dragon featured Bruce performing intense, seemingly paranormal movements in front of a psychedelic backdrop. Rumor has it, he was symbolically exorcising and battling the demon he felt was pursuing him. So when you stack up all those freaky factors, the ages of demise, the symbolic dates and times, the on-screen metaphors, the prophetic visions, it's not hard to see why the curse theory took on a life of its own. Bruce's sudden, tragic passing seemed to check all those ominous boxes. Of course, the supposed family jinx gained explosive new momentum when Bruce's son Brandon followed in his father's footsteps, far too soon. The talk of curses reached a fever pitch after Brandon was horrifically killed by a prop gun misfire on the set of The Crow in 1993 at the tender age of 28. The parallels were just too eerily coincidental to ignore for many. Like father, like son, both Bruce and Brandon suffered violent freak deaths connected to firearms while filming action scenes for movies. What were the cosmic odds of that happening? Fueling the cursed fire even more, Brandon passed away mere days before the theatrical release of the biopic Dragon, the Bruce Lee story. In an unbelievable twist of fate, that film contained a pivotal scene where Bruce is depicted fighting off an actual supernatural entity threatening him and his son. Between the two Lee men's fates defying all conceivable probability, you can't blame some folks for pointing an accusing finger at darker, more mystical forces. The coincidences surrounding their demise seemed almost scripted by some cruel higher power. So, while the Lee family curse remains a legend steeped in ancient folklore, it's easy to understand why it maintains such an enduring, haunting presence over the tragic Lee legacy. For the believers, the supposed generational curse has been an ever-looming shadow over the family's bloodline, one that may never truly be shaken. Let's talk deeply about the devastating freak accident that took the life of Brandon Lee, Bruce's only son and the heir apparent to his father's incredible legacy. Keep watching.
Tragedy, it seems, runs in the family. Bruce Lee was a movie star who died young and became a legend. Now his son Brandon is gone as well, fatally wounded while starring in a movie.
It's March 31st, 1993, and a 28-year-old Brandon is hard at work on the set of The Crow, a gritty, comic book-inspired flick about a murdered man who gets supernatural powers to avenge his own demise and that of his fiancée. A departure from the traditional martial arts, fiery, but very much in the moody, metaphysical wheelhouse his legendary dad explored late in his career. Anyway, Brandon was really putting his heart and soul into this dark, atmospheric project. As both the lead actor and a massive Bruce Lee superfan personally, he was determined to honor his dad's undying spirit and commitment to authentic action sequences. No phoning it in on this one. So, during the filming of what seemed like a standard gunfight scene, Brandon's character gets assassinated by a couple of thugs. But in one of those tragic truths that are more unbelievable than fiction moments, the prop gun that was supposed to be loaded with inert blanks wasn't. A dummy cartridge had somehow become dislodged and got stuck in the barrel like a bullet. When the blank was fired at Brandon, the false ammunition projectile came flying out like an actual round, striking him in the abdomen and shredding his internal organs into hamburger meat. The pain had to be ungodly, like getting your intestines blown out by a hand grenade. By the time Brandon's colleagues realized something had gone horrifically wrong, the dimly lit set was a smoldering, blood-stained nightmare. The young star's limp body shook violently as the crew scrambled to call emergency services, but the damage was catastrophic. He hung on for a few agonizing hours in surgery before sadly succumbing to the injuries that night. I can only imagine the unimaginable grief and trauma Brandon's loved ones faced as they grappled with this disgusting, senselessly violent situation. His mother, fiancé, and close friends had to be shattered into a million pieces, struck by the cruel cosmic joke of watching Lee's life get cut short on the very same kind of movie set that his father had once ruled. For Brandon's sister Shannon, the tragedy reopened floodgates of old childhood wounds. As kids, they had both idolized Bruce to such an unhealthy degree that his demise left them fundamentally broken. Now, decades later, Shannon was being forced to relive her severe emotional trauma all over again by burying yet another family member.
You know, he made such a huge impact in the world. There's nowhere I can go where people don't know who he is.
And Brandon's former brother-in-law and martial arts mentor, Chuck Norris, the man was left absolutely gutted to his core. As he solemnly confessed at Brandon's funeral, it felt like he had now lost two sons with the freak deaths of both Bruce and his only child. You could see the pain plastered all over Norris's craggy face and reddened eyes. Of course, the entire situation was compounded by an inevitably ugly legal battle over who or what was to blame for Brandon's demise. Whistleblowers, finger-pointing, and negligence lawsuits from all sides. Meanwhile, grieving relatives were just trying to make peace with the unthinkable circumstances. Beyond all the depressing postscripts and aftermath, though, the most disheartening aspect is how Brandon's rise was so highly promising before getting cut short. At 28, the skilled martial artist and actor seemed more than capable of filling his dad's massive shoes and elevating his craft even further. Leading up to The Crow, Brandon had steadily built an impressive resume of solid B movies, showing off his signature intensity and obvious talent. From the underrated Rapid Fire to more fiery fare like Showdown in Little Tokyo, he always brought a magnetic presence and never phoned in performances. In the aftermath of his shocking demise, it became clear Brandon Lee was finally ready to truly soar into the theatrical space, to stand on his own 2 feet as an artist outside Bruce's imposing shadow. Sadly, the world will never know how far he could have flown. It still stings to think about all the squandered potential. A second-generation martial arts icon was gone in the snap of a finger. Another too bright flame violently extinguished before its time, haunting the once great Lee dynasty. Next is a true inspirational story about a chance encounter that changed everything. Keep watching to discover how one kick from Bruce Lee altered Jackie Chan's destiny forever.
I think when I was young, doing Under the Dragon, fighting with Bruce Lee.
It was just another day on the set for a young Jackie Chan. Just a fresh-faced stuntman trying to make a name for himself in the wild world of Hong Kong action cinema. Little did he know, this seemingly ordinary day would change his life forever. Chan was working as a stunt performer on the set of Enter the Dragon, the film that would make Bruce Lee a global icon. At the time, Bruce was the biggest name in martial arts movies, a trailblazer smashing down barriers with his blend of pulse-pounding fights and acting chops. To a rookie stuntman like Chan, Bruce was a living legend. As the crew prepped an intense fight scene, Jackie could feel the electricity and intensity of the project. This was going to be big. Bruce Lee didn't do any film tricks. All actions were raw, and authentic. When the cameras rolled, it was like witnessing a thunderstorm of fists and feet. The fight choreography was impeccable, a brutal ballet that left the stuntman breathless. That's when it happened. One mistimed move, one split-second lapse in control, and before Chan knew it, he was on the receiving end of a very real Bruce Lee kick. Not a gentle nudge either. This was a full-force blow that sent shockwaves through Jackie's body. As he crumpled to the ground, Jackie's mind raced. Bruce Lee had just kicked him into next week. He prepared himself for the master martial artist to simply shake it off and move on. After all, Chan was just an anonymous stuntman in Bruce's world. But Bruce didn't brush it off. In a moment that would be seared into Chan's memory forever, the legendary Bruce Lee rushed over, concern etched onto his face. Lee helped Jackie to his feet, apologizing profusely and checking if the kick had done any serious damage. To a young stuntman who idolized Bruce, this simple act of kindness and humility made a profound impact.
Suddenly, my eyes all black because he just one stick right on my head.
Here was the biggest martial arts star on the planet, treating a nobody stuntman with immense care and respect. It flew in the face of the typical tough guy, no-nonsense reputation that actors often had. From that day on, Jackie saw Bruce in a new light. Sure, he was an amazing martial artist and movie star. More importantly, he was a humble, caring human being who valued the people who helped him create his art. In the following years, Jackie would carry the lessons from that fateful kick everywhere he went. As he transitioned from stunt work into becoming a leading man himself, he tried to emulate Bruce's ethics and hard-working spirit. Like his idol, Jackie committed to doing astounding stunts himself rather than using a double. If he was going to make it big in action movies, he wanted to bring the raw authenticity that Bruce was known for. No faking it for the cameras. If you saw kicks and flips on screen, you could bet your life that it was really Jackie putting his body on the line. The similarities didn't stop there. Chan also followed Bruce's lead by infusing humor and charisma into his action movies. He knew that no matter how mind-blowing the fights were, you also needed a magnetic screen presence to keep audiences invested. Martial arts skills alone wouldn't be enough to become a true movie star. As Chan's star rose through the decades, he carried Bruce's torch by combining adrenaline-charged stunts with hilarious comedy. Blockbusters like Rumble in the Bronx and Rush Hour had crowds worldwide laughing just as hard as they were gasping at the audacious action sequences. Even when Jackie became one of the biggest names in martial arts cinema, he never forgot the humbling moment when an apologetic Bruce Lee helped him off the ground. If his unprecedented success ever went to his head, he just had to recall that simple act of kindness from a movie legend. While their time shared on set was brief, Chan definitely took Bruce's life lessons to heart. He knew that no matter how talented or famous you became, you should always stay grounded and appreciate the people helping you achieve your dreams.
But it's okay, I look at Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee doesn't do anything, he look at everybody.
Just like Bruce, Chan made it a point to form strong bonds with his stunt teams and crew. When the unthinkable happened, and Bruce Lee passed away in 1973 at the tender age of 32, Jackie was just as shocked as the rest of the world. The king of Kung Fu cinema was gone far too soon in incredibly tragic circumstances. While conspiracy theories swirled about assassination plots and supernatural curses, Chan never bought into the more far-fetched rumors. He chose to remember Bruce as a passionate, hard-working trailblazer who walked the path he wished to follow. In Bruce, Chan saw the future he hoped to create for himself. A global martial arts superstar who entertained audiences while raising respect for East Asian cinema and culture around the world. The two shared that core dream of bringing their heritage's ancient arts to the biggest stage possible. As the years rolled on and Jackie Chan cemented his legacy as one of the most famous action stars on the planet, he never lost sight of Bruce Lee's impact on his life and career. When he was just a starry-eyed teenager getting accidentally battered on a movie set, Bruce showed him the values and humility that should guide anyone's success. While their encounter was brief, to Chan, it meant the world. It was the day he witnessed a real-life legend in action, only to discover the man behind the myth was someone truly special. From that moment on, Jackie vowed to tell Bruce's tale of compassion and humanity to anyone who would listen. The lasting gift Bruce Lee gave Jackie Chan went far beyond dazzling kicks and punches. It was a fundamental example of how to be a brilliant martial artist and entertainer while remaining humble, respectful, and appreciative of one's roots. When two titans like Bruce and Jackie meet, even for the shortest time, legends are truly born. Thank you for watching. Comment to share what you think in the comment section below. Remember to like and subscribe to see more videos.